Here we go. There's 3 purposes to fairy stories. 3. The first is called recovery, he calls it. And basically, when you're interacting with a fairy story correctly, it helps you engage with this fantasy world. And then when you go out into the real world, you then have a greater appreciation for what you do have. It's when you go through a magical forest in a fantasy world, it makes a real world forest seem more magical. The second is escape, okay? Escapism, which wasn't a bad thing for Tolkien. He goes to great lengths to distinguish between escapism and you abandoning your duty. And the final thing that I think is most important is a happy ending. Okay, so he calls it consolation, but essentially it's the idea that in Tolkien's mind, every fairy story, if it didn't have a happy ending, it wasn't a fairy story. Because you need this cathartic moment to bring the whole story to a close. And if you don't have that, then you're missing the point of the purpose of fairy stories. He calls it a catastrophe, like the opposite of catastrophe. So the game is filled with catastrophes, but then the very end, there's the catastrophe, the good one that appears, and kind of rights all wrongs. And that game has this, like, in spades, especially if you get all the masks. I think there's something about humans that just love the happy ending, and it's part of what makes this game great. Like, there's good happy endings and there's bad happy endings, but this game has a really good, like, ending to the story that really makes it satisfying.